Good afternoon. So today the National-led government has delivered its fourth budget. It's, I believe, a very sensible budget in uncertain times, and it looks to address some of the big challenges that New Zealand faces. It is our second zero budget, but by that we don't mean that we're not spending any new money in certain areas. Of course we are, in those critical areas of health and education, science and innovation, infrastructure and Christchurch there's more money, but of course in other areas we're looking to save money overall to ensure that there's no new additional expenditure. The reason, of course, that's important is that we have been running deficits for quite some time now. That's been an appropriate and sensible thing to do as global growth has been weaker and we've had the global financial crisis, the impacts of the Canterbury earthquakes and the recession we inherited when we came into office. The tax base of the country essentially delivered less revenue, but of course New Zealanders rely on government expenditure in all sorts of areas to support their families and their lifestyles, whether it's working for families or interest-free student loans, the New Zealand superannuation pension scheme or welfare support, accommodation supplements, health or education expenditure, you name it, the government has all sorts of commitments. And so what we've done in that period of time is look to bridge the reduction in tax revenue with debt finance borrowing as we get back onto firmer and stronger footing. But as the global economy starts to present more opportunities and as the New Zealand economy picks up, it's the right thing to do to get back to surplus so that we don't get in a position where we are borrowing more and more money and more of your taxpayer dollars are ending up being spent on interest to repay the bankers from earlier debt and leaving New Zealand in a weaker financial position. So that is the basis of the rationale of what we're doing. In some really critical areas, the government's looking to spend, as I say, more money like health. There'll be more money in that sector for cancer care, obviously more money for nursing, more money for medicines, and overall looking to improve the outcomes from our health system, which is performing very well, but obviously has exponential demand from an ageing population and as technology drives new opportunities for new drugs and medical procedures. Education is also an area where the government's looking to invest more money. We are making some minor changes to class sizes. I think it's important to understand what we're doing there. Over the course of the last 10 years, there's been approximately a 12.5% increase in the number of teachers we have in the New Zealand teaching system, which is currently around about 50,000. At the same time, the population growth of students has been much more modest at about 2.5%, and the educational outcomes achieved have very much plateaued. So what we've done in the 13 years when your child might go to school, in 4 of those there'll be a very modest increase, in 3 of them there'll be a modest reduction in the class size numbers, and in the balance we stay the same. That saves us some money, and that money will be put into improving the teaching quality and teaching outcomes so that all students right across the system can benefit from better teaching outcomes. Research supports the view that the most critical thing you can have is a high quality teacher in front of your child. And so for most students there'll be very little change. In fact, for over 90% of New Zealand schools there'll be less, they'll either have one or less teachers in their system. So very modest changes, but I think the right focus of attention now, given we've built up our teacher numbers by so much over the last decade. Science and innovation is also a very important area for the government and to deliver economic growth. Number of initiatives taking place there, development of an advanced technical institute which will be an important place for the development of scientific ideas, the Great Science Challenges where we're putting in money to support good ideas that come from New Zealanders, and funding for our universities through the PBRF scheme is another area where there's more money. Overall, Christchurch, again, a big focus of attention as we look to spend some of the money we allocated last year, particularly on that horizontal infrastructure, the really critical stuff, roading, water, sewage and the likes, as we look to put Christchurch back on its feet so it can rebuild and grow. So these are very difficult times. We put together this budget on the backdrop of great uncertainty in Europe. We see real challenges in countries like Greece and potentially Spain and Italy. But I am very confident we are doing the right thing in New Zealand. We have significant pro-growth initiatives we've rolled many of those out over the course of the last 3.5 years. Our economy is on much firmer footing. Our businesses have got stronger balance sheets and are doing better. Our export sector is starting to grow and expand in international markets. Government's constantly looking at ways that we can increase our global footprint of sales and free trade agreements with other countries. And in terms of making sure that our books are in order, it's critically important that we don't challenge, I think, the New Zealand system in so much that too much debt would put real pressure on an economy which already has high levels of private sector debt. So we are taking a balanced way through, a sensible way through, and a pro-growth series of initiatives. I believe that New Zealand is a great country. We have enormous potential in front of us. The challenge for all of us is to harness that potential, to sell into those fast-growing markets, particularly in Asia, to get our books back in order and make sure that New Zealanders can enjoy a higher standard of living and believe that they can get real achievement from their own lives through their own enterprise, their own efforts and their own contribution. I'm sure over the days ahead there will be much analysis about the budget, and you'll have specific areas that you're interested in looking at. Of course, we now have the new budget app, iPhone app, that you might want to have a look at. Our attempt to make sure that we can communicate with the wider public in New Zealand in a much more technical and digital friendly way. And my guess is if you're looking at our website and a podcast like this, then there's probably every chance you'll be very interested in that app. So enjoy the budget, and look forward to more communication with you in the weeks and months ahead about Budget 2012.